Welcome, everybody, to the second episode of A Conversation With. Here at SevereMMA, I am Spencer Kyte. This is our hopefully weekly long form interview series where sit down with fighters, coaches, people involved in the fight game to give you a little bit more background into who they are, both inside and outside of the cage. And today I'm joined by UFC welterweight Bryan Barberena, somebody that I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the last few years through various conversations to put together pieces. And as I was sorting through some names of who to reach out to for one of these episodes, Bryan's name came up to me right away pretty quickly. There's some good stories that I'm sure we're going to unearth. Bam, thanks for doing this, man. I appreciate it.
No, thanks again for having me on. It was a pleasure to be here. Second guest, the new show. I mean, honored, man. It's always great talking with you.
I appreciate it. So to let everybody behind the curtain, we started this a little earlier. We had some technical difficulties. This is take 2. So we're going to go into it and we're just going to dive in and we're going to start where we started last time. So you're going to have to repeat yourself. I'm going to get to hear the story a little bit for a second time. But the first thing I like to ask everybody to sort of set a baseline is, when did you fall in love with, come to, first gain exposure to either mixed martial arts or just combat sports in general?
Oh, no. Hello?
This is the joy of trying to do videos. Every time we try to get a question and answer, everything freezes up.
I know. Oh, my gosh. You're running smooth now. It's like weird. It's like as soon as you started answering the question, it wanted to cut out on me.
Yeah, and I'm hearing you with like robot tone, which is usually the like internet
See,
lagging tone.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly how it sounds when you're answering or asking the question.
That's no good. That's no good. So as I said, I guess we'll just keep trying this. The introduction to MMA or combat sports, what was it that first got you started or piqued your interest about this?
Yeah, I actually I didn't really know about MMA at all. I watched boxing as a kid, but I was solely focused on football growing up. I was going to go play in high school, play in college, go to the NFL. That was the dream right there. I have two younger brothers, so we always rubbed house around, did WWE, messing around, watching wrestling, um, boxed around a little bit because we watched some boxing fights with my dad and had basic fighting skills that my dad kind of told us and taught us just because, when I was little, I was really heavy set. I grew really fast. So I was a big kid, kind of quiet. So I got picked on quite a bit, got in some scuffles, had to defend myself, always, never start the fight, but always finish it kind of thing. So I'm sure many people have had that story with their dad or that talk with their dad. Um, but it was kind of like the same for my brothers. But when we got into high school, I was solely set on football. That's exactly what I was going to do. And then I happened to find just on TV one day was the UFC, and it was like the Ultimate Fighter, and there was like a fight that weekend or something. And I don't know, from that moment on, like watching it was like, what is this? And then seeing like a fight from like the episode and everything, and then the fights that weekend, me and my brothers were just like hooked on it and wanted to do it. And, right away we were like practicing on each other and like, oh, well, yeah, let's do this. And, trying to find out all we could on it, order some gloves, to start like a underground fight club, ultimate fighter kind of thing for ourselves. And, hopefully get more people interested in it and people who wanted to, you know, I guess fight so we can learn more and test each other a little bit. So we were setting up matches at the school and, finding out weight classes, trying to get people matched up. And, we just watched more and more. And, the more we watched it, the more hooked I got on it. I actually kind of fell out of love with football, and kind of got bit by the MMA worm and just wanted to do that solely. So that's where all my focus went.
I respect that you were thinking about weight classes in making fights between people in high school of like, no, you're too big. You look like you're more suited for him, and we'll do heavyweights over here. And that's some dedication to getting fair fights and just wanting to see competition.
Yeah. We mixed it up. There was some, mismatches where, some heavier guys fought some lighter guys, but it was kind of like a mutual agreement between the guys. So, those did happen just because, people wanted to challenge other people. I remember well, I was bigger at the time, so I probably was heavyweight. So I fought some heavyweight guys and stuff like that. But mostly, yeah, I try to make it as even as possible and really test the skills out and just have a good time with it. So we were doing them everywhere.
So the eldest of three boys, what's the worst injury incurred within that trio? What's the worst from one of you to another injury? Because my brother cracked one of my ribs once, and I think it was actually probably the last time we ever fought, because that was the all right, this shit's gone too far. But there's been some bloody noses and some this and that. But when a rib got cracked, it was like, no, you two are done. You're not doing this anymore. So what's the worst injury that's been caused amongst the Barberena boys?
Honestly, we've been in a couple back forths or whatever, but I think, nothing real major. I've definitely cracked my brother's head open a few times and split their head open. But it wasn't just out of sheer aggression or anything like that. It was, we were roughhousing around, play fighting and, doing WWE stuff. I think I slammed him into the fireplace corner or something like that, and it split his head open. So, it happened to the same one. I probably did 3 or 4 times. I ended up splitting his head open from us slamming him and falling into things and stuff like that. But nothing really ever. We never really had any major scuffles with each other. But we did get into it a little bit, and always roughhousing. We always did stuff. So I'd say probably that was probably the worst of it.
I again appreciate that you're nothing major. I probably just cracked their heads open once or twice.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Hit him on the corner of the mantle and smash his head open, use his head like a coconut. That's what we do.
We were all just worried about getting in trouble. We didn't want to get in trouble.
Right.
Find out we were wrestling around when we weren't supposed to be.
Right. Nobody wants mom and dad yelling at us. Who was the disciplinarian? Was dad were you more afraid of dad, or were you more afraid that, oh no, now mom's coming to talk to us?
Oh, absolutely. My dad. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. My dad, he traveled a little bit too for work and stuff. So sometimes he wasn't there during the week. So it's we can get away with some stuff, I guess, with my mom. But when he came home, or if it got serious enough, cracking someone's head open, he found out about it. Yeah. Not a good time.
Yeah. The whole bill comes. You just get handed the here's what happened while you were away.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So you mentioned football was the passion. You sort of stumble upon the UFC, which seems to be kind of a common theme for a lot of athletes a lot of competitors of your age. By no means am I saying old. I'm 10 years older than you. But just that generation, right? That came upon seeing the UFC on TV. It wasn't a thing that was on TV for me until I was out of university. And so, or very late stage of university. Whereas for a lot of current fighters, it was I was flipping around one day and there's the Ultimate Fighter, or there's the UFC. And I was just what is this? I got the bug through VHS tapes of the early ones of the the styles, and let's actually answer these questions. And so when that bug hits, what's the next steps other than organizing high school fights? When does it start becoming, this is maybe something that I want to really genuinely look into?
Yeah, really, I said it was probably going into my senior year, something I really wanted to look into. There was no gyms close. And I had some, I was falling out of love with football and had some issues at the time with the team or whatever, but I almost didn't play my senior year. So I ended up playing my senior year, doing really good and getting a bunch of college offers to go play, and decided to not play, not go to college, pursue the things, and that I wanted to find a place to train and start pursuing MMA. Didn't sit great with my parents at first, you know, but
that was certainly going to be a follow-up. Yes.
yeah. So, you know, they weren't really happy about that, didn't really understand it, but I was definitely one of those kids who, when I put my mind to something and I really wanted to do it, I gave my all towards it, and they can see that I was really, you know, falling in love with it. So they said, well, it's ultimately what you want to do. You're going to have to work and stuff too, though. And I was like, well, yeah, of course. So it was from that point after high school, you know, I wanted to find a gym and start training and everything. And it kind of, you know, got delayed, but for good reason. You know, I had me and my wife had our first son right after high school. And so, you know, I was working and we were moving around between Arizona and California. And, you know, it was hard to find time to go train and everything and be able to afford bills and everything with a new kid and trying to get balanced. So it took some time. Got an opportunity to move to Minnesota for a little bit. And actually, it's funny because we moved there and the closest gym was 6 hours away. So that didn't work out. But luckily, there was some local fighters in the town. And so I started training with them. Went and checked them out. They were training out of a garage. One of the guys, Kyle Jensen, he was the head coach at the time, and he fought in like the WEC a couple times and stuff like that. And so he was like teaching it, and some other like local hard-nosed wrestlers and stuff like that. So a lot of guys, I didn't wrestle in high school or anything. I always look back and think like, man, why didn't I wrestle when I found out I really liked this? Like, why didn't I do that? It didn't make sense. Yeah. It's because it's like, yeah, I always in my head, I look at back now, I'm like, oh yeah, in my head, I always thought like, I'm gonna beat these wrestlers. They're not gonna be able to take me down. I'm gonna beat them. I'm just gonna strike, you know? So yeah, that's the long story. But if you look back in my like history or whatever, it says I'm from Minnesota because that's when I started, where I started fighting. So all my MMA bio says I'm from Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, that's a perfect sort of intro setup to a different part of it. Born in California, as you mentioned, bounced around a little bit between California and Arizona, out to Minnesota. You're now obviously on the East Coast, and we'll get to all of that stuff. Where would you actually say you're from? Like, where do you have a list of? Do you keep track of all of the like different spots you've been? I'm someone that's moved, I think it's 27 times.
Oh,
so
wow.
Like, I know all the cities. I know I can't do all the addresses anymore because I'm getting old and there's too many of them. But like, where do you sort of look at, this is where I grew up? And as you said, like fighting it lists Minnesota, but that's just because where it started.
Yeah, you know, I guess if I had to say, I'd say California just because that's where I was born and everything. But honestly, I really feel like I've never had a set spot, I guess, where, you know, normally people are like, yeah, I'm from here, and they have like a huge following from there. You know, they have a huge support system from there, you know, a big backing if they're doing anything like MMA related or any sport or whatever. I just never feel like I really ever had that anywhere. You know, my family, of course, but as far as like an actual like city or whatever, I didn't feel like I've ever had a huge backing anywhere I've been. So the biggest backing I've had is here in North Carolina where I'm at now. So for my team and everything. But yeah, I tell people, you know, I was born in California. That's where I'm originally from.
So we'll deviate a little from the MMA path just to stay on this a little bit, because it's part of your story that I find fascinating. And as somebody that moved around a lot, I find, you know, I'm always interested in it. How important and how, I guess, satisfying is it to now have, I would say, probably two places that you call home, right? Like there's the MMA home where you have an MMA family with the crew at Jim O. And then there's home that is the Barberena family farm that
Yep.
yourself and your wife and your kids bought some land and moved out east. You went the opposite of the pioneers. They bought
Yeah.
land and went out west. You were out west and bought some land and went out east. So what has it been like for you to be able to really set up roots and really build a community for yourself, both professionally and personally? And how have they connected for each other to make, I guess, probably life a little more settled, a little more stable, and a little more, just as you said, like feeling like now I have home, community, the right people around me?
Yeah. Well, now that you say that, it's like, well, I mean, gosh, well, who am I kidding? Like, I did have great family support system in the MMA world and like outside of it too. When I was in Arizona, the MMA lab, I cannot, hide that, or even I don't want to, and I don't want to put it away, like, or even forget about it. Those people there, they're like family members to me. When I bounced around in MMA so much or whatever, going from different states and end up, at the MMA lab first. And that's kind of where I took off. Those guys took me under their wing, and, I fought alongside them and I was in their corners, and they're my brothers and sisters, and the coaches are family members. And, they spent many a time helping me raise my kids, on the mat. My kids were there all the time. There was no kids corner back in the day when I was there. It was just, they were there running in the middle of sparring. I'm yelling like, "Oh, do I dig it? What?" And they're like missing kicks and and then the guys there are helping me raise them. They're putting them on the side and helping them get the snacks and everything. So, I mean, truly in my heart, there they are, my family there too. And just finding, making the move out here was really hard, honestly, and a big decision. But it's a decision me and my wife wanted for our family. We wanted to get land. We wanted to build a farm. It's something that's kind of been in my head since I was a little kid. And my grandpa from Colombia lived with us and used to tell me stories about a farm he had in Colombia and all the animals. And I don't know, it just really stuck with me. So as I got older and I had my own kids and everything, it's something I wanted more and more. And honestly, I wanted to go like full on hardcore, like bug out kind of thing, like off grid, solar panels, nothing, no way of finding me. And, my wife reeled me in, she's like, yeah, maybe we just start with a farm and we can build from there. So, uh, you know, and the biggest thing was like when it was time to decide and we had an opportunity to really take a step in towards it and on the move, like the main person I went to who really meant a lot to me too was Benson Henderson. And he told me, "Dude, that's awesome. You should do it." He said, "We're here to help each other's dreams come true." He's like, "This is one of your dreams. You definitely need to go and do it. This is what we do for each other. And, we'll always be there for each other." And he's like, "But this is what we do. We help each other's dreams come true." I'll never forget that. And like, I was so scared to tell him, like, "Hey man, we're looking at moving, and leaving." I was scared to tell him because I looked up to him so much and he had done so much for me. Um, so that was huge. And I'll never forget that. We still talk now, and he's like a big brother to me. But now we moved out here, got the farm, building up all the animals. And I know I've gone off track and gone sidetrack and jumped into a whole different thing, but
No, this is why I like having these conversations in this window to be able to just sit and let it go wherever it goes. So we'll start with shout to Crouch, shout to Smooth, two very good dudes that I've had the pleasure
yes.
of getting to know over the years. I've had conversations with them, not specifically about you, but your name has come up from time to
No.
time of like people that have come through and that they're still in touch with. And I mean, they are one of those, and this isn't to say that other gyms and other teams aren't in the we stay in touch business,
Yeah.
but they're very much if you're there and you've been there, you're always there, you're always family, you're always part of it, which is an important thing, I think, in this sport where athletes can be transient. Athletes can have to go and chase different opportunities, or life, as it did for you guys, presents a
Yeah.
different opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it kind of, works. It's not like I'm just going to some random gym. Actually, Scott Holtzman, he trained at the lab a lot, and that's how I met Jeff Jimmo, where I'm training now is Jimmo. He used to travel in with Scott and corner him, and he'd spend some time at the lab and do some lessons there, and meet and hang out with people. So it was just like one time me and Scott fought on the same card in Nashville, and we were looking at property out there. And that week, like, I don't know, me and Jeff, we're hanging out. He was making some meals for me during the week, and we were like, just talked. I didn't have any of my meals with me or whatever, so he made me for the week and was planning to do my whole post weigh-in everything. So we really got to know each other a lot more. And he was like, "Hey, if you're ever out this way, you can come and train anytime and everything." And so like we weighed in and everything. I went to the buffet and they went to the, post weigh-in meal that he prepped. So I didn't end up eating his meal, which whatever. But he was like, it didn't matter. I mean, you went out there and knocked the guy out, so you could eat whatever the heck you want. But he, yeah, he's been awesome. He's been huge, and not taking anything away from the lab and everything, but where my career went and how it's been, and some injuries I've been dealing with, before and everything. Jeff, being in that smaller gym and his focus being on me and able to change training up, not having, a bunch of fighters and everything, was really helpful. I mean, that's something where, when you're in a big gym, you can't just change the whole lesson, for me and him, we did every day. We went in and, how's this feeling? Okay, scrap what we were going to do. We're going to do this now instead. It was just like a lot going on with my body. And he was able to maneuver things around for me to training wise. So, but it wasn't like I didn't know him. I knew him from the lab and everything. So it's great to meet those people. And like you said, we stay connected, and, they'll always be family to me, and they'll always be family to my kids, because, I owe a lot to them for how they are and helping me raise them.
So before we get to some of those injuries and some of that part of it that maybe some people already know, but I do certainly want to get into it as well. Let's touch on the farm here. You said you wanted to go completely off grid and like solar, and just, I'm now picturing you wanting to have every animal imaginable. Wife wisely talked you out of it and said, why don't we start with 6 chickens and some sheep and some goats, and, probably a little bit more sane. But what are we at? What's the head count? What's the land count? Where can people, you guys have a great Instagram account, plug that, please. And just what is it? I mean, it's a job, of course. Anybody that's been on a farm or lived on a farm or raised on a farm knows that it's work, but it's also work that you seem to really absolutely adore. So plug Bam Fam Farms here a little bit, and give me a picture of what's going on out there.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a dream, man. And like you said, I wanted to go full off grid and everything. But surprisingly, my wife too, like I had to we kind of talked about it quite a bit, and it took a while, and she kind of fell more in love with the idea. And, honestly, she was on the other side of like, on the animals wise, let's get this and this and this and this. And I was like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it's like, wait. We don't even have the land yet. So, we originally moved, the opportunity we had was to rent this place in Tennessee, and they had 6 acres, and they were attached to a farm. And the people were there. They were really cool. It was kind of spur of the moment opportunity, and we didn't want to miss it. So we literally, I think I came back on a Sunday from a fight, found out about it, was able to lock it in, told the gym about it on Monday, and we left on Friday and drove and like packed everything up in the U-Haul and drove to Tennessee to move into this place and not miss on this opportunity to be able to start this farm life that we wanted to learn so much about and everything. So we lived there for a little bit, ended up finding 53 acres of land with a house, and it didn't have any fencing or anything. Just had the land and woods and pasture. And so we went after it. We got I think we got like 40 chickens right off the bat. A bunch of little chicks, super cool. A bunch of different breeds, just because there's, they lay a bunch of different colors depending on what kind of chickens you get. So really cool experience. We got some bottle calves for the kids to bottle feed. That lasted about a week, and then we had to get up early and feed them every morning. So, but still, great experience. Great experience. They ended up being like dogs almost, like they'd be on you constantly. So it was kind of hard to do any work around them because they're so big and they just want to play and rub on you and stuff. And they're like pushing you over. Um, but I mean, then we got goats, and we had dogs, cats, and stuff like that too. But it was just mainly chickens. Did turkeys. My kids got way too scared of turkeys. So just a mix of everything, but fenced and everything. We had great neighbors. The neighbors taught us a lot of you know trades of farming and everything. And it was crazy because the biggest question everybody always asks me is, every farmer I talk to is, do you have a lot of money? And I like, no, no. Like, and they're like, well, I don't know why you got into farming, because there's no money here. And they said, you know how a farmer becomes a millionaire? I said, no, how? And he said, he starts with 2 million. It's like, okay, well, I mean, this is okay.
Yeah.
It's like, it was like, I was so excited about, like, yes, I said, we're doing it and we're learning about it. And it's just like,
And we lost him mid conversation. So hopefully Bam is able to jump back in very quickly, and we can pick this up. I mean, you see, even just in this little moment, and there we go, we got him back.
oh,
We'll throw
okay.
the overlay back up. I was just saying, I was just sort of vamping for you to come back, of like, this right here is why I want to do this series. Like, these stories and these things of like, I really wanted to do this, and hey, now I've gotten myself into a second non-lucrative career is exactly what I want to talk to people about. Because it's chasing a
Yeah.
passion, right? Like, did you have any farming, like, did you have any farming experience before this, or was it just like, hey man, I want to have a farm and be able to say that I own a tractor? And your wife was like, yep, and I want to have all these animals. Hey, let's just do it. That was essentially the impetus of this.
I mean, pretty much. Yeah. I had no farming experience. I mean, the most I ever had was a dog and a cat. My wife had no farming experience. We don't come from really any, family having farms or anything like that. So, but like I said, the only reason it really stuck with me is because my grandpa used to tell me when he lived with us from when I was little, that in Colombia he had a farm. And honestly, my dad was like, I don't remember him having a farm. I don't think he has a farm. Well, it came out after he passed away that he really did have a farm. But um, like, I don't know. I knew going into it, it'd be a lot of hard work and everything, but I've never been scared of hard work. And it just seemed really peaceful, and something I really wanted to do, was really passionate about it. And my wife got really passionate about it. And really, ultimately, we got really passionate about wanting to raise our kids in a different atmosphere, a different kind of life. We just talked about like where the world's going, everything, social media and, whatever, just a lot of things going up. And, we wanted our kids to learn, different trades, live a different life, be able to learn how hard work is, and, the benefit of it, and life and death and everything that comes with it. And the benefits of raising your own animals, your own food, your own, produce, and knowing exactly what's in it or on it, and, that you're getting the best for your body. So for us, the main focus was to grow our own vegetables and fruit and animals to end up processing for our own meat. So we know exactly what's into it and everything. So it's been really cool to see the amount like of joy in my kids' faces, and know, there's definitely times where I'm like, man, did we make the wrong decision for them? Because, they're just so, they're doing way more chores obviously than they would in just like a normal
Right.
household. a lot more work, and there's just a lot more going on. A big thing is like, I wanted them to get outside more and stuff too. So it's just like another opportunity. And then you have moments where, they're just out there hanging out with the animals and talking about how much they love the farm and how they told their friend about the farm and how that, they want to bring their friend over to see all the animals and everything. And it's just like, you know, there's moments like that, or when, I'm injured or my wife's sick or whatever, they're over there taking care of her. They're able to run the whole farm, go out there, do every single chore by themselves and handle it and get it all done how it's supposed to and everything, and take care of these animals that rely on them, rely on us, and they're able to do it by themselves. We definitely made the right decision, just for them, for us too, but for them to be able to do all these things and learn all these, and be responsible like that. And it's just amazing, really, that everything that comes with it. The Bam Fam Farm, actually, this hat is,
Yeah,
I
there
don't
you
know if you can
go.
see it or not.
On
The Bam
Instagram, it
Fam
is
Farm.
at Bam Fam Farm, or at
Yep.
the Bam Fam Farm. We'll get that right. Go
Yes.
follow, go check it out. You can see the animals, you can see the bread. The bread looks good, the produce looks good, the eggs look good. Like,
yeah, I mean, we're always trying to learn new
folks.
Things. Yeah, we're trying to learn new things, and there's a lot of details in this whole process and in this whole life journey of the farm. Like, honestly, I can talk forever on it, of things we've learned and like directions we wanted to go and getting steered different directions. And really now we're at a spot where we know exactly what we want. We know exactly what we want the farm to be. We know how we want to grow it. We know how we want to raise the animals even more, and what kind of life we want to live. And it's just all gotten so much clearer. And obviously, just with anything, there's trial and error, and there's also, all the live and learn kind of thing. You end up finding out what you really want to do. And that's been a process for us with the farm. And, it's been following farmers, who have been in the area and doing one thing. And we followed them and realized, that's not what we want to do. We want to do it a different way. We want to do it a way that suits better for, what we want in the end, as far as our health and our animals. And not that they're not being healthy, treating their animals right or anything. It's just, simple thing is like grain fed to grass fed. We want to do grass fed and finished and pasture raised and everything. We don't want to feed grain. We want that finished product to be, off the earth completely, and, with grass and everything. So, just different paths we want to take. And it's been great. We got pigs now, so those are on there too if you want to check those out. Those are awesome and a whole different experience, man. I was so iffy about the pigs, and my wife wanted them so bad. And I'm really happy she talked me into it, because I freaking love them. They're awesome.
That's awesome. There's a ton there that I do would love to just steal you for like 3 hours, and we can go just absolute long form about it.
Yeah.
But one of the pieces of it is having that side of things settled, and not as a distraction, because obviously it's not just this side project, but having that sort of secondary focus, that thing that takes and requires a ton of attention and a ton of time and a ton of care when you get out of the gym. How helpful has it been in helping shut off the MMA side of it and get to the other part of work? Because I know from talking to loads of athletes and people around this sport, I know even for myself as an obsessive about my work, sometimes it's hard to turn the brain off when you're thinking about, I've got this coming up or that coming up, or this didn't go well in training. You get home and it's not like you can sit there and dwell on that combination that didn't land right, because you got all the chickens and the pigs and the everything else. Has it been, have you seen a correlation between like moving back and having the farm to not distract you, but distract you, and the success you've had as of late?
Absolutely. And I think, a big part of it is my family. It's really important for me to really put all my focus, when I'm at the gym, all my focus is there and my training is there. And, you know, obviously there's work that needs to be done in between, the gym and then after the gym and later sessions or whatever. But like you said, you go home to the farm, there's work to be done there too. Um, but we get to do it together. We do it together. We're learning constantly. We're spending time with these animals. It does take my mind away from it, and it gives me an opportunity to, take care of these things and also be there with my family. And we get to talk while we're talking about things that they did during school or our day or whatever. We're not talking about fighting at all. Occasionally my boys will be like, "Hey dad, yeah, when's the fight? Who we going?" kind of thing. They all want to know, but, uh, it's easy to shut it off. It's easy to get away from it and easy to put my focus into, the farm and the animals. And most importantly, keeps me wanting to be around my family. My kids are there helping me, spending time with them, making sure that I give them time throughout the day. It's not just constantly running around because we're running around a lot. We don't live in town, so it's not easy to go here and go there. They have sports that they're in and things they're interested in too. So it's a lot of running around for us, so that when we get home, it's important for me to really, let's take time. Let's play this board game that you've been wanting to play. Let's play this game on Xbox you've been wanting to play. Or, a big thing for all of us is we tend to gather around and watch a movie all together. We've been exploring all the movies from like when I was a kid, trying to show them like some good ones, which there's a ton or whatever. They enjoy it, but it also inspires them for like my walkout music and stuff like that. Like I walked out to, a song from Ferris Bueller, what is it?
Twist and shout.
Twist and shout. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, they watch Ferris Bueller and and then they tend to watch the movie over and over and over again for a little bit. And, till we get to the next one. But, yeah, it's easy to get away. Like there's so much to do, but it's so relaxing and peaceful and I love it. And it's just so healing in its own sense. Yes, there's a lot to be done and it can be stressful, definitely. But at the same time, it's so healing and, it takes a lot off of me, off my wife. I believe even the kids, they go out there and spend time with the animals and it's just a real healing tool. Animals are very healing in the whole process and things. So I think it's a great addition. Like these last few fights and everything, I was traveling before from Tennessee to North Carolina. I want to say maybe the Matt Brown fight, the whole family moved out to North Carolina. So we're all out here now. So now I go home every night and that's huge to me. That's super important to me. Before I was traveling, I'd leave Monday, be gone all week, come back Friday, be the week for the weekend. And that's, it's better than what it was. Cause my first time we moved to Tennessee, I did 4 weeks. So half the camp or whatever in Arizona away from everybody. And I was like an emotional wreck and like the fight went well and everything, but still it was like one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life, being away from my wife and my kids. They're so supportive. My wife is amazing. I definitely would not be where I'm at today if it wasn't for my wife. I wouldn't be doing anything that we accomplished or anything like that if it wasn't for my wife. Like I owe her everything, and I'm so blessed and thankful that she chose me, and we're together. So like it really is. Sounds sappy or what, cliche or whatever you want to say.
Listen, it's going to be a recurring theme on this show. Tyson touched on it. I've touched on it. You've touched on it. We are all better men and in better places because of our wives. And anybody that thinks otherwise, I don't know, man. Like, yeah, I get it. I understand. Obviously, you mentioned there the kids picking the walkout music. Anybody that has watched you at weigh-ins and going into your fights knows about the nail polish. How did the tradition
start? On right now. We're waiting.
Not yet, but it'll be there. I'm sure it will. Come December 2nd, it will be there. How did it start? And just what does it mean to them for you to be showing them in those moments of your profession and your need to be most focused, that they are there with you and on your mind during those moments when you have to be away, that they're right there and you want them there, regardless of, you know, the idiots on the internet that are going to be like, why is his nails painted and all of this nonsense that we can just do away with.
Yeah, get a lot of those. You know, it honestly, everything I ever done, everything I do or whatever, I want my kids to be part of it. You know, for me, being a dad is the best thing in the world. Like I've won the top title of whatever of a lifetime. Like being a dad, being able for them to call me dad and have my kids is the best thing in the world. Like, and my wife, you know, obviously, but like just to be called dad and all that. So I want them to be part of everything I do. I mean, they have been, you know, from the moment I started. You know, they've been there, they've been part of the journey, they've been in the gym with me. You know, not so much in the gym so much as they are now older and getting into their own things and have their own other things that they have to do. But, you know, before I used to, you know, pick a walkout song or whatever, and it was just they were young. And then as they got to age where they started listening to more music and getting into movie music and everything like that, it was like, you know what? How about you guys pick my walkout song? I want you guys to pick my walkout song. You can do it. And then, oh, really? Really? You know, they got all excited about it. So now it's a thing. Then they kind of like argue with each other about it too. Cause you know, one wants that one, you know, it's 13, 11 and 9. And so they're just, you know, it's different ages there. So different songs come up and I was like, okay, well, you know, we got to you guys kind of got to decide on one, or, you know, if two of you really want one, you know, we could maybe talk the other one into it, but
right. Got to figure out some kind of system where it rotates or something.
Yeah, exactly. So we tend to do that, but, it's just really for me, it's, I want them to be a part of it. I want them in the end, like when I'm fighting or whatever I'm doing, knowing that everything I did, they were a part of it, you know, because it's all for them. It's all for them in the end, you know, whatever fighting. Yeah, I love it and everything. And I just to show them that you could do whatever you want to do. If you love something, if you put enough hard work into it and everything. I'm not the most athletic guy. I'm not even that athletic or anything, you know, I just work really dang hard and I can take a beating. I guess that's it. But, you know, I loved it. I've been a dreamer since I was a kid, and I just, you know, for them, I want them to know if they have dreams, they can be accomplished. You know, you can go get them, and you can do them. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. And so, you know, them being a part of it just helps show them that even more. It's great. And then with the painting nails, I mean, my daughter, we got really into painting nails as she started, you know, getting older and stuff. She's, you know, she got really into painting nails, wanted to paint my nails. She painted my nails every day. You know, we'd paint them the next day. She'd take the paint off and she'd paint them a different color. So, it was just like, you know what? And then I got a fight and it was like, well, you know, why don't you, she's like, can I paint your nails? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And she's like, oh, you know, do we have to take it off before the fight? And I was like, no, you know, no, just leave it on there. And so from that moment on, I was like, it's my war paint. That's what it is. You know, people go on to battle and go into war and they, you know, put on face paint or
right.
dress up for the fight. You know, they dress up for the fight or anything. And so that's my war paint, you know.
Yeah.
Gets my
you
nails
put on your fighter kit. Yeah. Put on your fighter kit and paint your nails.
Exactly. And I'm ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
And to make her happy, puts a smile on her face. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is going to feel a little bit like a hard pivot, but it's because I don't want to take up way too much of your time. And there are fight related, career related things that I do want to get to. You mentioned much earlier in this, there have been some injuries. There have been some tough points where, and you and I have spoken through them. So I know a little bit about them. There was a pretty bad back injury that was really changing up a lot of your training, limiting a lot of what you were able to do. What was it? I mean, can you walk me through just what happened and sort of the realization that like I'm I'm here fighting for my career and trying to get going ahead, and it's at a new gym, and it's a tough weight class, and every fight's tough in this division and in the UFC in general, and I can't be at 100%. How do you navigate that stuff? And then when you're on the sidelines, actually full on dealing with it, what runs through your head? What's that year like?
Well, first off, yeah, going into any fight, uh, when it happened in the Ellenberger fight. Was able to finish that fight when I got to the back. I was having some issues and some tingling and everything, and then end up getting some MRIs and stuff like that checked out. They said possibly need surgery. I was like, well, I'm gonna put it off. I don't want to have surgery right now. I'm in the middle of fighting, kind of thing. Like, I saw the doctor I saw was like, oh, it's career ending. Like, you won't be able to fight anymore. And I was like, all right, well, what can I do to still fight right now? And he was like, well, we can do these injections. But once they stop working, you're gonna have to have surgery. And I was like, okay, well, how long do those last? And he's like, it depends. They can last a day. They can not work at all. They can last months. They can, you'd be good for a year. Um, so it was just like, okay, well, I'll try them and see if they help. And they weren't, the first one worked for a couple weeks and, wasn't anything, but I never went into any fight thinking I wasn't 100%. If I wasn't 100% or if I didn't believe that I couldn't win, like, then I wouldn't have went in there. Like, I absolutely, recently, TJ Dillashaw or whatever, is touching on that, just because we're on the subject.
Yep.
But he recently just came out and said, his shoulder, obviously was popping out. You saw it pop out in the fight, and, he notified him in the back. And to me, it's not, obviously, yes, he probably didn't want the opportunity of a title shot to go away, right? He would fall back if he stepped out and had surgery. He'd have to fight a few more fights before, stepping in a title shot again.
Right.
But in my mind, he probably thought, I know I would. I'm going to win. Like, I can still win. There's no, like, I'm 100%. It wasn't going to stop me. Like, I was able with my back to still, I had to switch up training. And, as fights went on, it got worse. And I was in contact with the UFC and stuff about it. And was getting treatment that was, some physical therapy, doing a lot of physical therapy. But at no moment was I not able to, perform. So the losses that I took, before surgery or whatever, or after surgery, and fair, I lost them. Those guys were better than me that night. I hold nothing to, there was no injury, as I'm saying. It's basically what I'm saying. You know what I mean? But we had to change training a lot, and the day to day is just, you get through it. That was it. It's just getting through it. And when it did get bad to the point, those shots didn't work. Like I said, the first one lasted like 2 weeks. The next one lasted like 5 days. The next one didn't work at all. So it's just, what can I do to feel good and continue to train? Physical therapy. I found a great physical therapist I was working with. We put together a program. I mean, he came to the gym. He talked with my coach, Jeff, and they came up with like things to do and, warm-ups and cool downs and everything. So on top of it, it was just like a lot of manual work. He was going in there and working on me constantly, throughout the week, just so I could make it into training and stuff and feel good enough to do it. So, but then it got so bad where I had nerve damage going down my leg from, my lower back into my toes. And my legs started to give out, and I was in a lot of pain. And at that point I was like, okay, I'm going to need to have surgery, but I would really like to continue fighting. And so my wife, being the amazing wife she is, she's like, I'm going to find the best damn doctor out there. And so she did, found a specialist out of Pittsburgh who does back surgeries. He has done back surgeries for a lot of athletes who have returned to competition. Some MMA fighters, some other sports, NFL and stuff like that. So we went and talked to him, and he was like, "Yeah, I think we can do something. We can do this surgery, and it's minimally invasive. We won't have to cut any of the muscle. They go in from the side, and we'll do a fusion for L3, L4. But this is your best, like this is the best case for you to be able to return fighting." He's like, "There's some other options we can do, and honestly, they'd probably fix you better." He's like, "But this will fix you, and it might, I don't know about the nerve issues so much. Like it could help." And he's like, "But you're gonna be able to return without having so much pain and everything. You're gonna be able to actually do your workouts and everything." I was like, "All right, let's do it." And we did it, and it's been great. Dr. Cantor was the guy's name, and he's been amazing. What he did was amazing. It took me a year to get back to fighting, and I took it slow, and it was a lot of build back and figuring it out. A lot of like my wife getting on me and like, "What the hell are you doing? You're not supposed to be carrying that bucket," like stuff like that, being on me and being on top of me, make sure I'm not doing things I shouldn't. My coach as well. But we made it back, and I made a return and was, won, so it was a huge achievement. Like that was a huge win in my book, just even to return. And man, what a process. I'm, pretty much pain free.
Well, that's the most important part to hear. The thing I want to dive into a little bit or dig into a little bit is the mindset part of that, of knowing you're hurt, like knowing you're injured, knowing you're limited, and just being able to tell yourself, will yourself, convince yourself, "Nah, I'm fine. I'm good. I'm 100%. I can go out here against Vicente Luque and beat this fellow lunatic." And I mean, if people don't remember, it is one of the best fights of 2019. It is one of the best fights of the past 5 years. Go and watch every nearly 15 minutes of it. Sorry that it didn't go the full 15, Bam. And like
6
convince
seconds,
myself.
6 seconds away.
Yeah, convinced myself that I'm 100% to be able to go and face Randy Brown, who's on a really good winning streak right now. Where does that come from? How does that come together? Because it's a piece that, like, genuinely, just as a human being, I don't have and I don't understand. And then as somebody that covers this sport and talks to you guys regularly, it still fascinates me every time somebody says, "Oh yeah, I knew I had this going on," but you're right. TJ 100% was like, "Yeah, listen, Mark, my shoulder's going to fall out and we'll just set it back in, but I could still beat the #1 bantamweight in the world right now with this one arm." Where does it come from?
I don't know, honestly. It's hard to say. You could say I really don't know. I don't know if my upbringing, I don't know, because I honestly really don't know. That's a great question. It's just something I've always had, I guess, inside of me. Back to football, back to any sport or whatever. It's just been, tough it out, walk it off, throw some dirt on it, brush it off. You're good, walk it off kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't know. Some people would say it's not a great quality.
Is it a like gradual build myself to this throughout camp or as we get closer to the fight? Or is it just a like every day, "Nah, I'm all right. I can still do," because like just my general thinking, right? Like I got a back that isn't working properly and it hurts and I'm dealing with some nerve issues and whatever. I'm going into the gym and I'm preparing from a place of protection, take care of myself, make sure I get to. But like to go in there and be like, "I'm 100% to face this Brazilian savage and go and have that fight with him," just fascinating to me.
Well, I mean, I guess in training, it was never, obviously I need to do the prep work and everything to make sure my body feels good enough to fight. Because honestly, if I didn't feel good enough to fight, then I wouldn't, like if I didn't think I could win, or not even that, I guess if I wasn't healthy enough, I wouldn't fight. So, but yeah, in that sense, I've never, like, it's always the thought of, you know, I'm, I'm getting into training. I'm doing the things I need to do to prepare. And, there's nothing stopping me from doing those things. So just keep at it. And if you're sore one day, whatever, we're going to put some icy hot on it. We're rubbing it out and we're getting into training. And once I get moving, I tend to feel a little bit better than, just being cold or sitting there, or, once I get past the warm up, I'm
Right.
ready to go. I feel good enough to move and get the job done. I feel like I can compete at a high level. So, it's crazy you say that because, and then I hear myself say this, but like right after that, I end up almost dying and thinking I was going to fight the next week,
Yeah. Let's get to that, because you beat Anthony Ivy after the year off. You come back, you get that victory that I know means a lot to you. And you're scheduled to face Daniel Rodriguez. I want to get the date right here, so I'm scrolling. You're supposed to fight Daniel Rodriguez on November 14th. We spoke somewhere very close to that, like within a couple of weeks of that fight. Had a conversation, great interview. I'm ready to train. I sat down. It was probably a week before. I sat down to transcribe it and opened my computer, and before doing work, procrastinate like everybody else. And I pull up Twitter, and there's a report that says Bryan Barberena out of fight with Daniel Rodriguez, something, 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 nearly dies. So for the people that haven't heard the story, what the hell happened? And holy shit, what was going through your head?
What was going through my head was like, damn, I'm going to fight next week. Like, that was honestly, that was the biggest thing is like,
get these 2 liters of blood out of my abdomen.
Yeah.
I got to go face Daniel Rodriguez.
Well, I mean, at that point, I knew I wasn't going to make it to the fight. But prior to that point, I was like, if this isn't that bad, I'm fighting next week. Like 100%. I had been, after the Anthony Ivy fight, I was trying to fight actively. I went to Abu Dhabi with IMPA, was there, said yes to 3 different fights, while I was there, that were going to happen in Abu Dhabi, and none of them worked out. So I was like itching to fight and, continue to go after being out for a year of surgery. But what happened was I was training for Daniel Rodriguez, and the week before, the Friday before fight week, so I'd leave the following Tuesday, I did my last sparring rounds and was moving around with some guys, my first round, and I took a spinning back kick to the body. Didn't feel crazy hard, didn't knock the wind out of me, nothing. Just felt like a stiff kick. I moved forward, pushed up on them, did my work, finished all 3 rounds, hung out. North Carolina, I was talking with the guys, talking with my coach. Great end of sparring rounds, did great. We're ready to go to fight week. I hop in the car to drive back to Tennessee to my family and call my wife, as I always do on my drive. We talk the whole time. So, I tell her, like, man, stomach kind of hurts. I think, I didn't have much to eat for breakfast this morning. I'm probably just hungry. I didn't bring any of my meals. I forgot them. She's like, well, we'll just go through a drive-through quick that, you could have. And I was like, all right, yeah, I'll just get like a salad or something with chicken, grilled chicken. So I run to McDonald's. Yes, I know. Figuring they have just a plain salad. Wait in this long line. Get to the thing. They don't have salad anymore. McDonald's no longer has salad. So for everybody who's out there, McDonald's doesn't have salads anymore. Don't ever try it again. But Chick-fil-A was right there, so I ran to Chick-fil-A. Yes, I know. Why didn't you go to Chick-fil-A over McDonald's first? I know, my mistake. Got a salad, hit the road. Ate some of it. was feeling okay, but the pain, like it was like coming and going. So it was just kind of weird. And I'm talking to my wife, she's a nurse. And I was just like, yeah, she's like, well, did anything happen? And I was like, well, I don't know. I took a body kick. That's the only thing I can think of that, maybe I was like, but it wasn't hard or anything. She's like, well, okay. And then it started getting worse and the pain started getting worse. And I was like, man, it's getting really bad. And she's like, well, do you think your appendix ruptured? And I was like, no, I don't think so. I was like, it doesn't hurt. Like, I think it would be a lot worse if it was that. And she's like, yeah, you're probably right. She's like, maybe. And she's like, maybe you should just pull over and I'll drive and come get you. And it'd be like 2.5 hour drive from where I was at already. I was like, no, I'm good enough. I can drive. So I'm driving again. And she's like, it's really bad. And I'm like, oh my gosh. She's like, maybe you should pull over. At that moment, I was like, I'm sweating all over. Like I'm just pouring sweat. Like I just got done working out. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm sweating like crazy. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling tingly from head to toe. And she's like, you need to pull over right now. And I was like, I will, I will. And then my vision went out and I couldn't see. It was just like black. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I was like, I can't see. And she's like, pull over, pull over. And so I just like swerved the car over to the side. It was like a 2-lane highway and I swerved over. Thank God there was no car there. Um, and all I can think in my head was like, okay, you'll feel your tires dip off the road a little bit onto like the side of the road, like the dirt where the asphalt ends or whatever, and then hit your brakes. So I did. Thankfully, I made it to the side of the road. Again, a blessing. Um, so she's like, call 911. I was like, I can't see. And she's like, I'm going to call 911, answer the phone with on the steering wheel when I call back. I said, okay. So she hangs up and is like calling around, panicking, and my vision comes back and my stomach's not hurting. And like I said, it's coming and going. So it was weird. So I call 911. I need an ambulance. Something's going on. I'm not sure. They're like, where are you at? And I was like, I can see an exit up ahead. And they're like, okay, we think we know you're out. I was like, okay, I'm going to pull off the exit and go into this, whatever I turn into right away. So it's easier for you guys to get me. They're like, no, 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 no. I was like, it's all right. I'm already moving. So I pull off the road and I turn into this shopping center and there's like a church right there. So I tell them there's a church right here. I'm in this church parking lot in this shopping center. Like, okay, we're coming to you now. I call my wife back and she's like, oh, thank God you got a hold of the ambulance. She's like, they kept transferring me to different ones because I didn't know exactly where you were. So I was like, well, okay. Ambulance pulls up. I'm on the phone with her. I'm like, what's going on? I tell them, it's off and on. And they're like, okay, well, do you want us to take you to the hospital? And I'm like, well, how far is the hospital? And they're like, it's 2 miles up the road. And I was like, okay, I think I'll drive there. And she's like, get the hell out of the car. What are you doing? You guys take him. Like she's on the car speaker so you can hear everything she's saying. Uh, and they're like, they're kind of holding back a laugh. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm going. And she's like, call me when you get to the hospital. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, let me know what hospital it is and everything. I'm like, all right. So I get out, get in the ambulance. And the first thing, they talk to me about what's going on. They're like, okay, we're going to put you an IV in you. I go, no, you're not. And they're like, what? And I was like, no, you can't put an IV in me. I said, I fight for the UFC. You're not allowed to do IVs anymore. I'm supposed to fight next weekend. If this is nothing serious, I'm fighting next week. And they're like, what? And I was like, yeah, if they're like, well, what's going on? And so I explained it to him again. I said, but it comes off and on, so I don't know how bad it is. I said, but if it's nothing serious, I'm fighting next week. And they're like, well, can we like at least start the plug in you? So like if you do need an IV, they can insert one or like get it started right away. And I was like, okay, yeah, you can do that. I mean, you're not putting anything in me besides the like starter plug or whatever. So I did that. And then like we're talking on the way and I was just telling them like, yeah, it's coming and going. They're like, well, how do you feel right now? I was like, I feel fine. Like there was no pain, no nothing. And I was like, okay. So then we get to the hospital and they wheel me from the ambulance to the front check-in thing at the hospital. And I was like, wait a minute, aren't you going to take me to a room to make sure this is nothing serious? And they're like, yeah, the hospital is kind of busy right now. So we're going to just get you checked in here. We'll get you checked in and then they'll call you back. And I was like, no, I was like, what if this is something serious? What if I'm, like, what if it is serious? And they're like, Yeah, well, they'll take you back soon. And so like the guy's checking me in. I'm sitting in a wheelchair. They loaded me off the gurney. I'm sitting in a wheelchair there. And then all of a sudden it hits me again. Like I start having serious pain, pouring sweat, tingling all over. But now I feel like I'm gonna pass out. And I'm like falling out of the chair and the guy's kind of holding me. He's like, "You all right?" And I'm like, all I can think to say, and like I felt like I only had the breath to say was like, "Help me, help me, help me." And I'm like falling over and like I feel like I'm about to pass out. And the nurse is right there and she's like, "Holy cow, he looks terrible. Rush him to the back." And so they rush me to the back and the doctor comes right up to me and he's like, "What's going on?" I was like, "I got kicked in the stomach. I think I'm bleeding inside." Or, I think I ruptured something. They're like, "Get him on the table." So they lift me onto the table, cut my shirt off, get an ultrasound machine, do an ultrasound on my stomach. He's full of blood, call a code, whatever. And they called like an emergency code. And he's like, "We're rushing you into surgery. Uh, you're full of blood. We're gonna figure out what's going on." And I was like, "You need to call my wife right now." He's like, "We'll call her as soon as she's going to surgery." I said, "No, she's on her way here. It's a 2-hour drive. She doesn't know where I'm at." I was like, "You need to call her right now and tell her." So he's like, "Okay, what's the number?" He called her right over. He's like over the top of me. And he calls her and tells her and like hangs up and they rush me into the emergency room or whatever and they give me the mask. I would never forget this part. It's like, "Okay, take deep breaths, take deep breaths." And I'm like breathing, nothing's happening. And they're like, "Get the knives. We need this knife and like give it to me. All right, are we ready to do this?" I'm like, "I'm not asleep. I'm not asleep." I said, "It's not working." And they're like, "Just keep breathing." I'm like, "It's not working. I'm taking deep breaths." And they're like, "Don't worry, just breathe, breathe." And then it was like gone. But I had freaked out there for a second because I had plenty of surgeries and it never took that long for me to go out.
Right. Right. The
Kind of
yelling,
bad.
"I can hear you asking for knives. Please don't start cutting me while I'm still here."
Yeah.
Yeah. For anybody that's never done anesthesia, that's never gone under for anything, it's such a weird thing because right up until the point when you go, you're all the way there.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's just done. You just kind of come back to, and you're in another room, and you're like, "What are we doing? When are we going to do this?" And they're like, "Dude, that was 4 hours ago. You're good.
Yeah.
It's okay." So ultimately, what was it? What had to be dealt with that provided you with the lovely scar you now have on your abdomen?
Yeah. So I ruptured 2 arteries in my abdomen. I think they had to remove some of, I want to say it was called the fascia or something like that, but it's basically like a protective lining that covers your organs and stuff like that. They had to remove a chunk of that. And I had basically had ruptured 2 arteries. They said it's like, they know it could happen, but it's like super rare to ever happen. They've never seen it. All the specialists there were like, "We've never seen this, but we know it could happen." But it's just like, you must have stepped and your body was in the right place and his kick landed at the right spot at the right time. Like they're like, it's just crazy how it happened. But yeah, they didn't know my wife had rushed there. My coach rushed there. I don't know how much language, I don't want to say any language or anything, but when my coach first got to the hospital, he got there first and he said a person walked up to him. They were like, what is it? Like a priest or whatever walked up to him and he's like, "Hey, I'm looking for Bryan Barberena." And the guy's like, "Okay, I'm gonna need you to sit down." He's like, "Who the fuck are you? What the like, what's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just helping the hospital out. They're really swamped right now. So I'm like helping as people come in, helping kind of designate where they should go and stuff like that." And he's like, "Oh, well, gosh. Okay." Well, then I guess my wife came in right after and he came up to her and she said like my coach was standing like behind him, just kind of like looking at her. And she was like, "What's going on?" And the guy's like, "Who are you here for?" And she's like, "I'm here for my husband, Bryan Barberena." And he's like, "Okay, maybe you should take a seat." She's like, "I'm not taking a seat. What's going on? Just tell me what's going on." And she's like, "Is he okay?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, he's fine. I'm just helping." The thing
Right.
like,
yeah.
Like, why didn't you tell me that?
Yeah. Thanks for sending the guy that does last rites in the hospital
Yeah.
to greet people that are worried about their friend and spouse that has come
Yeah.
in for major emergency surgery. Good call.
Yeah.
Wherever
So
that
it just didn't
hospital
work out
was.
right, but it's kind of funny to, you know, giggle about after the fact. But yeah, ruptured two arteries in my abdomen. They end up, you know, having to split me wide open, gut me like a fish down the center there. And, you know, went in and were able to, what is it? Where they like heat or whatever. Anyway, cauterize it. There we go. Cauterize them and everything. Stopped the bleeding. I had 2 liters of blood in my abdomen. They told my wife that if it had been 2 minutes longer, I wouldn't be here anymore. Like they said, it was like I got lucky that I made it here in time and everything. And honestly, it is a blessing. Like thank God, you know, my angels watching out for me. A lot of things lined up perfectly for me to be there at that time. Like McDonald's, even, you know, if I didn't wait in that line, you know, I would have already been in the mountains, you know, where I don't have service, where there's nothing there, you know, barely exits are far and in between. So, you know, and then where I pulled over, you know, the hospital is 2 miles away, and that hospital is a, you know, a trauma hospital where I wouldn't have to be life flighted or anything. So, I mean, a church parking lot, like, dear, you know what? I mean, there's so many things that lined up that it's just, you know, you look back on and it's crazy, but at no moment did I think I was going to die. You know, going back to what we were talking about before, um, there wasn't a second where I thought, you know, maybe, okay, maybe there was a second when I was falling over and saying, help me. And like, I knew something serious was wrong there.
Right.
But like, I didn't think I was going to die. Like, I chalk it up to just like being in that fight mode, like ready to go for fight week, ready to go for the fight. You know, I just had that mindset of like, I'm ready to take on whatever comes kind of thing, you know, whether it be in the octagon or whatever. So, um, you know, I chalk it up as that. But yeah, at no moment I thought of dying. And then months later, when I think about it, you know, months later after it hit me really hard, like, oh my gosh, like I almost died, you know,
Yeah.
like that was it. My kids were, man, it was extremely tough on my kids, emotionally, like, man,
Yes.
everything is,
So I mean, first and foremost, we're well over an hour here, and if you've got an out, we can do a part two and pick this up at some other point. But if you've still got time, I want to get into that because you and I have talked about it, just us for stories in the past. But like, that's the piece and a piece of this that like, even when we spoke before, I said like, man, I can't imagine those conversations, those discussions, the emotion of it, because for you as a competitor, I know there wasn't really a great big thought of, nah, I'm done. Like you want to compete, but I know for you as a father and as a husband, it's hang on a minute. So what was that stretch like of getting to the point of deciding and agreeing as a family? Because I know you made the decision as a family
yeah.
that I'm going to get back to this, and I want to keep competing. I want to try more.
Yeah. You know, it was really hard. You know, to begin with, I already knew like, okay, well, I'm not going to let myself get heavy like I did with my back surgery if I'm wanting to keep competing, you know, like I blew up, heaviest I've ever been. Um, but it was just, you know, my kids were, and honestly, they kind of still are, you know, it's, you know, it hit hard, you know, they almost lost me. I almost lost them, you know, in a sense, like almost wasn't here. And, you know, we talk about it. And when that happened and I wanted to keep competing, you know, we kind of didn't really talk about competing at all for a while. It was just being there, you know, being there with each other and spending time together and getting through it and really just enjoying each other's time. So it definitely, you know, people say when you go through like a near death experience, it kind of makes you feel what you had. And I mean, I knew what I had, but it just makes it that much more important now than before. It's just like I knew everything was for them, but now it's just like nothing else matters enough to, you know, nothing else really matters that much to do anything. So for me, it was, you know, deciding with them, talking with my wife, and talking with them about, you know, continuing to fight. I told them, if they don't want me to fight, if we can't figure it out, that I won't fight anymore. Like, me being there for them is more important. But we talked about, like, what this life brings us. Uh, we get to be together more often than if I worked a 9 to 5 or whatever. Like, I'm able to go take them to things and make their games and everything, and being able to support us, and we're able to do some cool things and be a part of some cool things. And um, really, like, but all that can go, like, it doesn't matter. Like, none of it mattered. It was just like, whatever you guys feel okay. And they're like, well, what do you want to do? And I was like, I would like to try. If it doesn't work out, I'm okay with it. And I said, every doctor told me I should never fight again. There was one doctor that told me she thinks I can. And so I told them, you know, I don't know, like, I don't want to go in my life and say that I didn't try, if I didn't try to do it. Like, I don't know if I could, you know, go and not do it. Like, I want you guys to know that, even through, even the pain and everything that happened. And I know in the end, I wasn't scared to get back on that horse and try, and if it didn't work out, I'm 100% okay with it. But, like, just don't ever, think that you get too scared of something that you won't even give it a try anymore. Because it would change our whole lives together, change our whole lives, for good or bad or whatever. I'm sure it'd be fine. And they're like, okay, you can try, but if there's anything, you can't fight no more. I said, okay. Like, if you have any pain, anything. And my wife too, she's like, seriously, like, if you take a punch or whatever and you can't, and it, whatever, something happened, you feel something or whatever, like, that's it. And I was like, yeah. And, like, it was a long process. And like I said, it still affects my family. In my mind, I don't think about it. Uh, and I don't know if it's because I can't or I don't
Right.
want to,
Right.
you know. It's hard because when I think about it or whatever, I get emotional. And because I just think about them, and I think about what, how they feel, and what could have been. So I just get emotional about it. And so I just try to block it all out and, continue with the day, and cherish every moment I have, with him. And thankfully, like I said, this being able to fight and in the UFC and everything like that, I'm able to be with them throughout most of the day, besides my little block of training or whatever, and the little bit that I have to do, or whatever, everything else we do together, so, we made the decision to try, and it was it took time coming back, and did it smart, even smarter than my back surgery. And, um, you know, took it slow, and actually, I thought, like, okay, it'd be like a year, and I came back before under a year's time. So faster than my back surgery. And, felt fine, and, kept my kids up to date the whole time and everything. But it was really after that, it was really like, I can't travel anymore. I don't want to travel anymore. I don't want to be gone. I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to have, be gone all week and come home on the weekends. We need to be together. Like, if we can't fix that, then I'll be done anyways. Like, I can't fight anymore if we can't be together during, the whole process. So we did, we made it happen, and it wasn't easy, and it's, it's still not easy to our situation and everything at the moment, but we're together, through it all. We're together, and it's better for it. I feel like I'm performing better. I'm performing on a better level, on a higher level, because they make me better. They make me a better person. They make me a better fighter. They make me better everything at everything I do. I'm better because of having them with me. You know, for some people that's different. You know, for some people they need to be away from their family, or they need to have, you know, the not have the distraction of the kids running around or whatever. That
Right.
makes me more fired up. That puts me in a better place. You know, that's my kids choosing my walkout music, you know, puts me in a different place walking out. You know, I'm being silly. I'm being like I'm with them, you know, walking out. We're dancing to this music that's coming out, you know, Baby Shark and all this stuff, you know.
Right.
It's just it brings a different side and puts me in this different mood, and, you know, makes me at peace and wanting to perform the best. And I do perform at my best when, you know, and surrounded by them. So yeah, it's just it all worked out. I came back, and you know what? I lost the first fight. I lost that fight, you know, the first fight back, and I'm completely okay with it. You know, it was a great night for Jason Witt, and we had a scrap, and I'm okay with it. And it was still a win in my book.
Just
Not
being there.
because, yeah, just being there, just being able to return and do it all. Like, in my mind, I didn't take it as a loss on, you know, not because the judges or whatever or anything like that, not the fight in general. Just, yeah, like I said, being there, fighting again was a win. And I knew it was only the beginning of, you know, more great to come.
Yeah, you mentioned the more great to come, and we'll start wrapping up on that. Since the Jason Witt fight, it has been 3 consecutive victories. It is a great fight with Matt Brown in his backyard in Columbus earlier this year, and then an even better performance against Robbie Lawler to set up this fight with RDA in early December. Having gone through all of what you just described and dealing with constantly, still carrying and weighing all of that, I would have to imagine that it makes this run and this opportunity all the more sweeter.
Absolutely. You know, absolutely. I'm enjoying this on a whole nother level. You know, I'm enjoying fighting way more on a whole nother level. It's just a different time, I guess, my life and everything's going on, and everything in general is just, I'm really enjoying the whole process. And with my family with me now and everything, it's just, everything has changed, you know. And so these opportunities that are coming up, you know, like I said, the Matt Brown fight, you know, almost didn't happen. Luckily got rematched. And I feel like all these things are happening at the right time. So, um, yeah, I'm super, super excited and blessed. Are we able to, I don't know if you want to do your part 2 or how much more you got.
No, I was just going to say we have gone from light to dark where you are. And so that tells me we have spent enough time doing this. Before I full on wrap, I want you to plug whoever you need to plug, tell people how to follow you, because in the next few weeks, I'm sure there will be some IG stuff. You get closer to fight week. You and I will probably talk again for Severe MMA before this to talk about the actual fights themselves. But just tell people where to follow you, to follow the farm, to stay up to date with everything that's going on. And get ready for December 3rd.
I really appreciate it. You know, I honestly haven't been on social media much. The farm, you know, my wife runs that. We haven't been on social media much. Been a lot going on, a lot of changes happening, a lot of things happening. But definitely stay tuned. We do post on there occasionally. I post probably more recent when I have fight stuff coming on. But please go on there and follow us anyways. It just shows the love that's behind us and our journey. You follow the farm at the Bam Fam Farm. You can follow me at Bryan_Barberena on all social media platforms. I also have a Facebook fan page, Bryan Barberena. But yeah, follow me on there. You know, you follow along on the journey. I always post new animals and stuff too, so you get a glimpse of that. And thank you everybody for just the support. I want to thank my gym, Jimmo, my coach Jeff Jimmo, all my training partners. Danny Zia, he's my main training partner for this fight camp. He's been awesome. So a lot of great people: Tom Lane, Chase Gamble, Terry Miller, Paul Carson, a lot of great people at the gym. Got Scott Holden in the room training too. His fight December 3rd. So be sure to tune in and watch us. It's going to be a great card. We're going to put on great fights. Um, Most importantly, thank you to my wife and my kids. You know, they're the most important thing to me. And without their support, without them being behind me and pushing me, they're all the support and all the really everything I need to be successful in my life and, you know, be happy. So huge thank you to them. I wouldn't be nowhere where I'm, you know, nowhere near where I'm at now or even close without my wife. So huge to her. Love her so much. Love the kids, Deegan, Chael, Tevya. Thank you, Spencer, for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to talking again. And December is going to be awesome.
Oh man, thank you for doing this. I really, really appreciate the time. We will speak again before the fight. We'll jump on and we'll talk some fight specific stuff at some point.
Awesome.
But I really appreciate it. For Bryan Barberena, I am Spencer Kyte. This has been a conversation with SevereMMA. We'll talk to you soon.